A Ukrainian FPV drone struck a Russian transport convoy near Pokrovsk, and in seconds, the entire movement collapsed.
Over recent weeks, Russian movements near Pokrovsk have faced growing disruption, with vehicles stopped, supply runs interrupted, and units forced to abandon planned routes. What stands out is not a single decisive moment, but the accumulation of repeated setbacks captured in open-source footage. Clip after clip shows attempts to move forward ending in delays, losses, or retreat. These are not isolated failures. Together, they point to a battlefield where steady progress has become increasingly difficult, revealing a shift in how ground operations are now constrained in this sector. Pokrovsk illustrates how modern warfare has changed at the tactical level. Large armored formations no longer dominate movement. Instead, Russian forces increasingly rely on small groups advancing on foot, motorcycles, or lightly protected vehicles, prioritizing reduced visibility over speed or mass. Above them, Ukrainian FPV and FP2 drones maintain persistent coverage, adjusting constantly and responding within seconds. The imagery is consistent. Individual soldiers are detected crossing open ground. Small vehicles are tracked over extended distances. Buildings, basements, and tree lines that once offered concealment now fail once aerial observation is established. This approach goes beyond destroying hardware. Ukrainian drone units are being used to isolate individuals, disrupt logistics, and weaken units before they reach active combat zones. Each interruption slows momentum. Each pause increases exposure. Losses accumulate gradually, creating a cascading effect that erodes combat effectiveness over time. Around Pokrovsk, control of low-altitude airspace has become a decisive factor, shaping who can move, who must wait, and who receives supplies. Consider subscribing to the channel if this kind of grounded battlefield analysis is useful to you. It keeps you updated as the situation evolves. The central issue facing forces near Pokrovsk is no longer how fast they can advance, but whether they can move at all without being detected. FPV and FP2 drones dominate the low airspace, shaping every ground decision. Along key access routes, Ukrainian UAV teams maintain nearly continuous surveillance by rotating platforms rather than relying on brief observation windows. FP2 drones scan wider areas, monitoring roads, damaged neighborhoods, and open terrain, while FPV drones operate closer to the ground, ready to strike once a target is confirmed. As a result, gaps in coverage are rare and short-lived. This persistent observation fundamentally alters infantry movement. Small groups attempt to advance in short bursts, waiting for moments they believe the airspace is clear. In practice, drones are often already overhead or arrive quickly, forcing units to halt, scatter, or withdraw. Movement that once depended on speed now relies on timing and luck, as detection comes from low-flying cameras rather than distant sensors. Near Pokrovsk's approaches, FP2 drones often identify activity over broad areas and pass coordinates directly to FPV teams, allowing rapid transition from surveillance to attack. As drone coverage intensifies, the battlefield feels compressed. Short distances between buildings or tree lines become high-risk crossings. Routes that once provided concealment shrink as FPV drones fly low along walls, through rubble, and over broken ground. Cover still exists in theory, but in practice, it often fails once drones maneuver into position. This is not a series of isolated engagements, but a sustained effort to deny freedom of movement. Even when no strike occurs, the constant presence of drones slows advances, disrupts coordination, and forces hesitation. Under this pressure, Russian operations become increasingly fragmented. Regrouping is risky, as concentration increases visibility. Command and control weakens as leaders avoid exposure while attempting to direct dispersed elements. The tempo of combat shifts toward short, disconnected actions rather than continuous advances. Soldiers spend more time waiting, listening, and scanning the sky than moving forward. Fatigue builds as pauses lengthen and stress remains constant, steadily eroding momentum. These effects are visible in how Russian forces now operate around Pokrovsk. Large armored columns have largely disappeared, replaced by small mechanized elements, light vehicles, and motorcycles used to move troops forward in brief intervals. This dispersion is driven by fear of detection, as dense formations are easier targets from the air. However, spreading out creates new problems. Coordination becomes fragile, mutual support weakens, and individual soldiers become easier to track once identified by drones. Motorcycles highlight this dilemma. They allow riders to navigate narrow paths and damaged terrain, but offer no protection and carry limited equipment. When forced to slow or stop, riders are exposed in open areas with minimal cover. If one element is hit, nearby units cannot easily assist without revealing themselves, causing further delays and loss of momentum. Communication also suffers. Leaders limit radio use to avoid detection, delaying orders or leaving individuals to make decisions under stress. This pattern reflects more than tactical adaptation. It shows how constant aerial surveillance reshapes behavior. Traditional methods invite rapid detection, forcing dispersion despite its drawbacks. Over time, this slows operations, makes advances tentative, and complicates holding ground when support elements are widely separated. Ukrainian drone operations around Pokrovsk also target individual movement and small-scale logistics, turning everyday actions into high-risk tasks. Foot movement, motorcycle travel, and small supply runs are frequently tracked once detected. Monitoring can continue across open ground and damaged neighborhoods for extended periods until conditions allow for a strike. Attempts to hide often fail, as drones approach from above and shift angles quickly. Supply routes face similar pressure. Drones observe roads, dirt tracks, and improvised paths used by small vehicles carrying ammunition, food, and water. Once patterns emerge, attention remains fixed. Even without direct attacks, disruption alone weakens frontline units. Delays accumulate, supplies arrive late or not at all, and units are forced to conserve resources. As shortages grow, fatigue spreads. Soldiers hesitate to advance, limit engagement, and carry heavier loads when movement is possible. Exhaustion slows decision-making, increasing exposure and further vulnerability to drone observation. Near Pokrovsk, the gap between detection and engagement has narrowed significantly. Once identified, targets often have little time to react. Traditional concealment has also lost effectiveness. Earlier ground combat relied on breaking line of sight using vegetation, rubble, walls, or underground spaces. Under persistent UAV presence, these measures offer only temporary relief. Drones observe from above, fly low, and adjust angles rapidly. Cover that blocks ground-level vision does not block aerial observation. What once provided safety now offers only brief delay. This environment creates sustained psychological strain. The constant awareness of being watched affects concentration and morale. Units spread farther apart, weakening cohesion. Communication becomes limited. Drone operators can afford patience, ground forces cannot. This imbalance places continuous pressure on those below. Drone activity around Pokrovsk also reshapes the battle by targeting logistics as much as frontline positions. Medical evacuation and resupply face delays as vehicles avoid monitored routes. Small disruptions multiply, weakening units without the need for large engagements. Logistics becomes a frontline vulnerability rather than a background function. What is unfolding near Pokrovsk illustrates a broader shift in how battles are decided. Success is no longer measured only by territory or equipment losses, but by control of movement and flow. UAVs now act as gatekeepers of the battlefield, shaping how forces move, hide, resupply, and operate. Pokrovsk is not just another contested location. It is a preview of how future ground conflicts may increasingly unfold. The question moving forward is whether this level of drone dominance can be countered, or whether it will expand across other fronts. If control of low-altitude airspace continues to dictate movement and survival, armies will be forced to rethink infantry tactics, logistics, and command under constant observation. That uncertainty is what makes Pokrovsk one of the most important areas to watch. Subscribe to the channel for future in-depth analysis. And if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like the video. See you soon.